Welcome to Detroit. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass. You can drown them. And that's what we gotta be. That's who we have to be. Because that's our domain. That is our domain. Because we'll tread water as long as it takes to fucking bury you.
Takes the snap, turns, gives to Montgomery, right side, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions! Yes.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions, friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. So, gonna let you all know something here, folks. This episode is about as straightforward of a topic as we could possibly have, especially considering the fact of what we got coming up this week. Everybody knows that all hands on deck, all viewpoints are, and should be, talking about the upcoming game that we have against the Philadelphia Eagles. But there's one little fly in the ointment. And I say that not because it's necessarily a small problem, but that it's this little buzzing that's out there right now that everybody's talking about and everybody's worried about. And what exactly is that? Well, as the title of the episode would state, as the thumbnail image would clearly lead all to understand, it's about Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it's about the incident that happened against the Washington Commanders last Sunday. Now, to anybody who doesn't know exactly what the hell is going on, to anybody who's not necessarily fully up to date, appraised of the situation, and be like, what the hell's going on here? Why is this a big deal? Why is this something that we're even talking about? The reason why it's a talking point right now, and the reason why I'm taking just a little bit of time to discuss it, go over it, is because, number one, I saw a comment in my episode from yesterday that I released that specifically talked about it. Number two, it's gaining coverage in a lot of different areas. So it's like, okay, here. I'm not, anybody that does this stuff professionally. I'm just a guy that has a couple of resources to be able to put up a decently, well put together podcast. But even I can tell you this right now. There is a growing worry, concern, or fear about what happened Sunday night that the refs did not see or did not call. And that specifically has to do with the fact that new evidence has come out that shows that prior to when, defensive lineman for the Washington Commanders, Daron Payne, went up and freaking hit, Amon-Ra St. Brown square ass in the middle of the face, on the side of the face rather, but in the middle of the head, that Amon-Ra St. Brown had actually hit him in a play or two prior to that, and that was the quote-unquote play or the quote-unquote incident that sparked the later one that everybody knows about that led to Daron Payne being ejected and then obviously being suspended. And everyone now is talking about this video that's been put out, and Daron Payne himself actually put it out to kind of be like, see, I told you this happened. See, I told you he hit me first. See, he absolutely did it. I'm going to tell you this right now. It almost feels like I'm dealing with a 5-year-old that's kind of like, well, he hit me first. And it's kind of like, okay, here. I get how the NFL is with its rules, and I get how the NFL is in certain regards here, but this is one of those situations where it's like, okay, here. We have to understand how the NFL works in a certain degree, but we also have to understand a couple of other things that kind of feed into this whole situation, and where my thought process personally is when it comes to the whole damn thing. Number one, when you take a look at the clip, and I'm sure some people have seen it, for those that haven't, I'm going to try and put it up on the screen if I can find a decent video of it. What you're going to notice is that during the altercation that happened prior to Daron Payne hauling off and hitting Amon-Ra St. Brown in the head, whatever you want to call it, you're going to notice that during the altercation prior to it, there is a little bit of a scuffle, a little bit of a scrum in which obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown and Deron Payne are kind of going at it, after the play is done. Nothing super serious happens, but what you should notice is, number one, Deron Payne makes some type of move first, shoves, pushes, does something to where Amon-Ra St. Brown reacts, and then we see what Deron Payne is making this whole thing now become a big deal about, is the fact that when Amon-Ra St. Brown responds, his hand comes up and it hits him in the helmet. That's exactly what you're going to see on the video. Now, I know Washington Commanders fans that see this will be like, well, that right there is BS. The ref should have thrown the flag there. The player should have been ejected just like Deron Payne was. And now Amon-Ra St. Brown should be suspended just like Deron Payne is. Okay, here. I've shown you the video. Here's what my thoughts are. And you know what? I'm pretty damn confident that I'm going to get a whole slew of different people that are going to have a thought process on this. But this is what I think is why certain things have gone the way they have not gone or have gone. First and foremost, go back to the video in your own mind, or, as I would like to say, I'll put it up just one more time for everybody to look at it. Notice what's happening here. There's the intention factor, and that is a key difference here. When you take a look at what's going on here, when Amon-Ra St. Brown responds, retaliates, whatever words you'd like to use, he is doing something after the fact. It's not like Amon-Ra St. Brown went straight up to Deron Payne and started instantaneously starting this crap. Deron Payne was the one that had initially started it. As far as, oh, you know what? I don't like what you're doing. I'm going to start pushing and shoving a little bit, and that's where this whole thing's going to go. You have to think about it. If you're wanting to go back and forth with this, and Deron Payne's want to say, well, see, this is what started it, I'll be like, dude, you're the one that started it. You're the one that prompted this whole BS. Because if you watch the video, you're going to notice that the extracurricular pushing and shoving after that particular play that then led to the altercation later that everybody knows what happened, it got started by Deron Payne. So if you want to go about, well, he started it first, I'd be like, wait a minute here, buddy. Hold up. Who's the one that went over to Amon-Ra St. Brown after the original play was done, started pushing and shoving, and then that then led to Amon-Ra St. Brown retaliating towards you? That right there already sets a precedent that, again, you started it, and then on top of that, you finished it. You're the one that caused this whole nonsense to become what it is from start to finish. That's literally the whole point and purpose of what's going on here. So you know what? You can say, oh, well, if he hadn't done that, I wouldn't have done it. You know what? He wouldn't have done what he did if you hadn't done what you did to start this whole nonsense off. You can say whatever about how Amon-Ra St. Brown, he got away with something and it's BS and all this other nonsense, but it's like, wait a minute here, dude. You're considered one of the captains of your team just like Amon-Ra St. Brown is. You're considered a veteran. You're considered one of the best at what you do, right? And you ought to know better than anybody else, just like Amon-Ra St. Brown does, that once a play is over, you let the play go. You move the hell on. You've got another play that's coming in literally within 10, 15 seconds. You don't have time for all this extracurricular Boy Scout crap. The time of being, oh, well, you know what? I'm not going to let you get your way, and I'm going to make sure that I retaliate. That stuff ended back when you were in high school. So you got a bunch of grown-ass men here that are going back and forth and in essence having a pushing and shoving match for no damn good reason. And it all started because Deron Payne was frustrated, he was boiling over, he was getting upset that the Lions were clearly kicking his ass and his team's ass, so he wasn't happy about the fact, and here's the thing, it wouldn't have mattered what it had been. The point of the matter is that the Commanders were so flabbergasted, they were so frustrated, they were so psychologically out of it at that point, that literally all it would have taken was somebody breathing wrong on them, and they were going to freaking snap, which is exactly what happened. Because again, when Amon-Ra St. Brown first stepped into the picture, he had not done anything. Deron Payne just didn't like the fact that he was in his space, and he gave him a good shove, which then caused Amon-Ra St. Brown to retaliate. And I'm going to tell you this right now, Amon-Ra St. Brown was wrong for retaliating. No matter how he wants to say it. Oh, well, I missed whatever, this, that, and the other. It's like, listen, you should have just let it go. You should have just let it go. Because if nothing else, if you'd have let it go, chances are the next thing that would have happened, which actually would have been Deron Payne hitting you square in the freaking helmet, that would have never happened. And this whole thing would never become a big-ass deal. But now that it is a big-ass deal, you have to take a look at everything for what it is. And the point of the matter is, this all got started because Deron Payne literally was unprofessional and had to go and say, oh, well, because I don't like the fact that you're in my space, I don't like the fact that you're breathing wrong, or whatever the hell else reason it was, I am now going to get I'm going to now get flabbergasted, and I'm now going to get all bent out of shape over something that normally would not be a big issue. So that's number one. Number two here, there's the intention factor. When Amon-Ra St. Brown responded, as Deron Payne is saying, and that's what prompted him to do it, I'll be like, okay, here, what was the intention here? Was the intention here of actually starting crap? Was the intention here of actually trying to piss you off? Or was the intention of simply saying, hey, what you're doing is not acceptable. I'm not just going to be a freaking lifeless dummy that you hit on the practice field and just take it. You need to understand that there are certain boundaries here. You need to understand that, hey, what you're doing is not an okay thing. That's the intention that Amon-Ra St. Brown had when Deron Payne first interacted with him. Then you have to take a look at it from the second perspective. What was Deron Payne's intention from start to finish? Deron Payne's intention was to simply say at first, I don't like you, I don't like what your team is doing to me, I am upset, I am frustrated, I need to take it out on somebody. Even if it is extracurricular, even if it is after the whistle, even if it is pushing and shoving, I need to take my frustration out on somebody. Well, Amon-Ra St. Brown was not the guy to do that to. To be entirely honest, the Detroit Lions are a team not to do that to. We do not take kindly to extracurricular BS after the whistle is blown, especially when it's because your team's just getting its ass kicked and you're just not happy about it. Then you have to take a look at the secondary part of this whole thing, which is what caused the whole story in the first place, which was Deron Payne hitting Amon-Ra St. Brown in the face. The intention there was that Amon-Ra St. Brown had no intention. He was just walking on by, minding his own business, which clearly is demonstrated in the video. He had let it go. He's like, okay, you know what? We had our pushing and shoving match earlier. You know what? That's it. That's the end of it. We're professionals. We're going to let it lie. We're going to move on. Deron Payne's intention was not that at all. Deron Payne's intention was, oh, well, because you got a shove in on me and the refs didn't see anything about it and my frustration's even worse than where it was before, I'm now going to boil over completely and I'm going to freaking clock you upside the head. Intention. It's a key difference. It's kind of like when you have two kids or when you're at work and somebody screws up and somebody else is involved in it. You look at the entire picture and you're like, okay, here. Who screwed up? What was the actual intention of what happened during the screw up? Which then makes you think, okay, here. If this whole thing could have been averted, who is more at blame here? Because let's call for what it is. Is Amon-Ra St. Brown at blame a little bit? Yeah, he's at blame a little bit. He should have, like I said, just simply walked off the first time and just let it be. But he didn't. But the point is, if you really want to start going back and forth over this whole nonsense like a parent does with a 5-year-old, you got to start saying, okay, you're both at fault, but who's more at fault here? And there's no two ways around that. I don't care if Deron Payne watches, which I sincerely doubt he would, but if it ever got back to him, he'd be like, listen, your ass is the one that caused this whole thing. You got suspended, you earned the suspension, it was upheld. Get over it, stop crying, and move the hell on, like you should have done when you were out on the field in the first place. So there's that. Then, there comes the next part of it, which is what I'd like to call the reasonable doubt factor. There's no reasonable doubt as to what Daron Payne was clearly trying to do. He was clearly trying to absolutely, hit Amon-Ra St. Brown in the head. He waited until Amon-Ra St. Brown started walking right past him and clocked him. When you take a look at that first little video that started this whole nonsense, those two guys are pushing and shoving and everything's going kind of a little bit haywire. And as Amon-Ra St. Brown said, when he decided to retaliate, he came up and accidentally got freaking Daron Payne in the head or the helmet. Now, I'm going to say this right now. For Commanders fans, they're going to be like, oh, well, that's just a BS excuse right there. He's just saying something to save his ass. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to say one way or the other. But here's the point of the matter. When guys are pushing and shoving, and you know what? You're dealing with a guy that's, freaking about 60, 70, 80 pounds heavier than you are. You're just trying to get some space. You're just trying to find some way to say, hey, back the hell up, dude. Back the hell off. So I can understand while when Amon-Ra St. Brown is trying to find some way to get the dude to back the hell away from him, be like, yo, this is not acceptable. You need to mind yourself. You know what? Maybe he missed trying to hit him in the shoulder pad or the chest, and it kind of hit him in the head. But again, the reasonable doubt there is that Amon-Ra St. Brown does not do that kind of crap. The reasonable doubt is that, hey, you know what? I've been in scrums when I've been in football, and you know what? Sometimes blows connect in places you had no intention of them freaking connecting in. But again, that's reasonable doubt there. There is no reasonable doubt. There is no alteration of intention as to what Daron Payne was trying to do. He was full on trying to hit Amon-Ra St. Brown in the damn head. And then comes what I'd like to say is the last part here. The NFL's not going to do anything about it. They're not going to do anything about it as far as suspending Amon-Ra St. Brown. You want to know why? Let's think about this, folks. For all of the flaws that the NFL has as an organization in terms of their punishment and everything else, there is at least one thing they are really damn good at. Getting every damn piece of evidence. Seeing every particular angle, seeing everything that goes on within a particular game. Why? Because at any particular game, it's not just the broadcast cameras that are catching stuff. It's the cameras that are catching stuff for the All-22 stuff. It's the cameras that are up above overhead that are also catching things. There's cameras literally everywhere. So let me just put this out there for you. Do you honestly think that when the NFL decided to suspend Daron Payne that they didn't know that this was already going on or this already didn't exist? I guarantee you they did. They would have had access to that stuff because, like I said, they have cameras everywhere. I know they do. They see everything on the field, which is why when stuff happens and then teams want to appeal stuff or want to say, hey, this wasn't fair, they're like, yeah, you know what? We see what you're talking about, but we're not going to change anything. So if it applies there, what makes you think it's not going to apply here? Because I'm going to tell you this right now. I guarantee you this for a fact. Before Daron Payne released it on his Instagram or Twitter or whatever the hell he did, I guarantee you this, that before the video became available to the mass market to where everybody knew about it, they already had it. They already had seen it. They already knew what was going on. The fact is that it's already now Thursday. Teams do not get suspension notices this late. That's why the NFL, when did they let everybody know, the entire NFL world know, but specifically Daron Payne and the Washington Commanders know, that his ass was suspended? The very next day. They didn't wait. You honestly think that during the entire process of when they were going to hand out the suspension to Daron Payne, there wasn't a conversation or a thought somewhere that said, well, you know what, maybe we could do the same thing for Amon-Ra St. Brown since technically this whole thing happened before that happened. I guarantee you on some level somewhere there was a conversation about it. But it wasn't done. Why? Because number one, the refs didn't do anything. And the reason why the refs didn't do anything is because they're looking at it the same way the Lions looked at it, and the same way the NFL's looking at it, and the same way I'm looking at it. Intention, reasonable doubt, and on top of that, who started the whole thing? Amon-Ra St. Brown did not start anything in this entire matter. That was Daron Payne, and also Daron Payne was the one that finished it. So that means if you really want to put somebody whose ass is in the crosshairs, who should be getting punished, who is getting punished, and justifiably so, it's Daron Payne. He's just not happy because, oh, well, you guys aren't calling it fair. That's your opinion. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Us Lions fans have definitely had our fair share of feeling like, oh, you know what? We've been instigated. You know what? We've had things gone against us that should have been called along the way and never did. Oh, that's right. What happened literally, what was it? About 5-6 weeks ago with the whole Brian Branch incident? Freaking Juju Smith-Schuster was absolutely just manhandling freaking Brian Branch all over the field during the night. Never got a call in his favor. And you want to know what? I said it back then. I'll say it again now. The way Brian Branch handled it, and even Dan Campbell said it, the way he handled it was completely the wrong way. The game is over. Just like, oh, that play is over. You got to move the hell on. The last thing you do is go up to a guy after whatever's done, play, game, whatever the case is, and decide to completely freaking hit him in the face. It's like, dude, no. It's like, yes, you're frustrated. Crap didn't go your way. You feel wronged. You know what? That's going to happen from time to time, but you can't let it overtake you. You have to remain professional, pissed off that you might be, and move the hell on. That's another reason why I think the NFL is not going to do anything about suspending potentially Amon-Ra St. Brown, because number one, there's no point in suspending him because he didn't start it. Number two, he didn't try to keep the damn thing going. He tried to let it go. Hence the reason why Amon-Ra St. Brown was just walking on by when Payne hit him in the first place. At most, what I could see the NFL doing here would be handing out a pretty hefty fine. $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. I could see them do that. That I don't think they're going to have any problem potentially doing because they love handing out fines. They love handing out fines. And you know what? I'm sure Amon-Ra St. Brown will be like, okay, fine. I'll take the fine. I'll move the hell on, just like I was trying to do in the first place. It's that simple, folks. It's Thursday. The NFL has not done anything about potentially wanting or trying to suspend Amon-Ra St. Brown, which means they're not going to suspend him. They'll probably fine him, give him a stern warning, or give him some sort of letter that says, hey, you know what? What you did, you could have done something better. Don't do it again, or else we will have to intervene. And that'll probably be the end of it. As it should have been. Because like I said, this whole thing should have never happened in the first place. But because of one man's pride, one man's ego, and the fact that he didn't like the fact that his team's ass was getting kicked, this is where we are. And this is my final say on the matter. So, having said that, I'm going to end the episode and say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. Also, if you enjoyed the content, I hope to gain your subscription if I had not yet done so already. I hope you all enjoyed the content. I really do. And I also hope this, that if you just subscribed and you forgot to do so before you got to this point, or you subscribed in the past and forgot to do so then, please, by all means, make sure you hit that bell notification icon so you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Hope y'all are doing well. Hope y'all got something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.